What's up guys, Agent here again with another theory crafting video. This particular video was made by a request from a viewer, hopefully I'm pronouncing the name right, Kokaboski, asked whether we could do a test between Necropotence and Mother Sorrow on a double pet heavy attack build for the Magicka Sorcerer. So that's what we're going to be exploring today. So the idea behind why one set might be better than the other, and this is kind of on both sides here. Necropotence boosts our max magicka, and so that helps boost our pet bonuses, pet damage, both their normal attacks and the pet pulse from our familiar. Pet damage doesn't scale off of spell damage, so Necropotence boosts that damage by a larger margin. It still boosts our abilities as well. Remember that every 10.5 additional max magicka we get is an additional 1 spell damage on our tooltip information. But the downside is our light and heavy attacks don't scale as well to max magicka as our abilities do, and as well as our pet damage does as well. Remember, it's 40 to 1 instead of 10.5 to 1. So that's kind of the argument for Necropotence. The argument for Mother Sorrow is that crit chance is applied across all of our sources of damage. Heavy attacks, light attacks, pet damage, our dots, our ultimate, everything. So that flat increase to our crit chance from Mother Sorrow across all of our abilities will end up evening out or coming close to the Necropotence boost that we get from our max magicka, that spell damage boost. Whether or not that's true is what we're going to be exploring today. So we will be using the double pet heavy attack build that I have. So that's basically Liquid Lightning, Blockade of Storms are 2 pets, LED Drain, and Thunderous Rage on our back bar, our front bar. Got some lag spike here. Is Mage's Wrath, Haunting Curse, Pets, Inner Light, and Thunderous Rage again. So that's what we're going to be testing today. I don't know why that cast bar said it was going to a 4-second long cast. Alright, so here we go. So one thing I do want to tell you guys is that these parses are going to be inflated. And you'll see why at the end of this parse here. So these numbers are going to be actually fairly significantly larger than what you would actually pull in a raid. But in terms of comparative purposes, basically the utility of these parses in terms of comparing these two sets, it's still valid. These are still valid tests because everything is still affected the exact same way. So the only difference that we're changing here is our 5-piece set. So these tests are still valid even if the parses are going to be inflated. So this parse is with Mother Sorrow. Should have mentioned that. I am wearing Mother Sorrow right now, and then we're going to get our ultimate back and do a parse with Necropotence. So this is why our parse is going to be inflated. We're going into execute with our Destrous ulti still going, so we have an inflated parse because of that. So we got 35, 55, 56. I'm just going to add that to our spreadsheet for Mother Sorrow. Let's see, 35, 5, 5, 6. Now we are, whoops, wrong spreadsheet. 35, 5, 5, 6. Okay, and then we're basically going to swap out Mother Sorrow for Necropotence. Where's our Necropotence pieces? Necro, and Necro. So there we go. Desummon our pets. And try to get our ultimate back. So Mother Sorrow, for those of you guys who don't know the set I'm talking about, is a light set. It's an overland set that comes from Deshan, so you can purchase it off of Guild Traders. It gives you a total of about 36.4% crit chance between the 5-piece and the 2 spell crit bonuses that it gives you. I believe it's the 3 and 4-piece that gives you spell crit. So it is a significant amount of spell crit that you're getting. So normally Sorcs are sitting at about 41.9% crit chance, about 42 crit chance with a pet build. So with Mother Sorrow, you're bumping that up from 42 to about 58 or so. So it is a fairly decent boost to your crit chance. But the question is, of course, whether or not it will beat out Necropotence. Summon our pets again, Daily Drain, and start our Parse. Da, 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 da. This is probably the most mindless rotation there is. Petsorc heavy attack builds. For those of you guys who don't know, who don't watch my streams or haven't run raids with me before, I am very allergic to pet builds. In fact, I try very hard not to use pet builds when I play my magsorc. I just don't like them. I don't like the reliance on the pet in order to do well. So I've never used a pet build ever since about halfway through Morrowind. So there we go, that is our Necropotence Parse. Pulled almost 37k there. 36,974. So take a look at our common metrics Parse. So yes, 36,974 here. So we got 41.9% crit chance of about 42, and we got 40% crits. So we're looking at our pet pulse. So our pet pulse here, our DPS is 3,000 or so. And for our pets combined, it makes up about 2,000. So Zap is our matriarch, and Familiar Melee is obviously the Volatile Familiar. But everything else, that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of DPS. So let's take a look now at the Mother Sorrow's Parse here. So you can see that we did see a pretty big drop, a 10% drop in our Familiar Pulse, went down to about 2,700. Zap and Familiar Melee still pulled around the same. I think this is 2,000 or so, and here on our Necropotence Parse, we're pulling about the same, a little bit over 22, so we're still looking at about a 10% decrease, but it's smaller just because the DPS themselves are smaller. Let's take a look at the crit percentages though. You can see here 58.3. So this is actually a pretty bad parse because we do have only 51% of our hits were crits compared to our 58% crits here. That's just the nature of a shorter parse, which is why I collect a lot of different parses, just to kind of even out the RNG factor of the crit chances and things like that. But just looking at a DPS here, let's look at Liquid Lightning, 51.71 compared to 54.46. Heavy attacks 48.49, 44.10, blockade 38.01, blockade 37.74, our Destro ult 39.17, 39.63. So we're seeing that the biggest drop in our DPS is coming from our heavy attacks. So see here with Mother Sorrow, we lost 400 DPS on our heavy attacks. Compared to Necropotence. Light attacks were 3291 compared to 2916. So we lost 300 or so DPS on our light attacks from Mother Sorrow to Necropotence, so that kind of evens out a little bit. But we can tell that the loss in DPS from our Pet Pulse and our Zap and not Mage's Wrath, Familiar Melee, that's kind of probably what's killing the Mother Sorrow parse compared to the Necropotence parse. So moving over to our spreadsheet. So here we have our spreadsheet. Necropotence is on the left, Mother Sorrow is on the right. did 6 parses in total, including the one we just did. Here are our averages, here's the spread, so we can see that Necropotence is still pulling ahead. Let me just double check. Yep, so Necropotence is still pulling ahead of Mother Sorrow by about 1k. If we take a look at percentages, this ends up being minus B9 divided by B9 times 100. That ends up being a 2.85% increase in DPS if you're using Necropotence instead of Mother Sorrow. That being said, though, Necropotence is kind of an expensive set to get. Mother Sorrow, on the other hand, is fairly cheap. So you can still purchase Mother Sorrow and still pull very good DPS. Obviously, 36.4k is nothing to laugh at. And I did do a couple of cursory tests on 35 on the not 35, the 6 mil dummy. And Necropotence still pulled ahead, but the difference was a little bit smaller, just from the 2 parses that I did for each, and just kind of look it was a very quick kind of thing just to see if there was any merit behind the argument there. Necropotence was about 500 or so DPS ahead on average, just based on 2 parses on each set. So on a longer parse, obviously, you will see a little bit closer because you have more time for those crits to accumulate, and so you'll get closer to that average of 58% crit that we should be seeing. So that is something that you want to consider. This isn't necessarily going to be representative of each parse. That's why we collected a lot of different parts. You can see there is a little bit more spread on the Mother Sorrow's parse compared to Necropotence parse to kind of help control a little bit for that RNG factor of crits. So Mother Sorrow will still pull lower than Necropotence. That's not really something to be debated too much. But on a longer parse, it won't be as disparate. It might drop only to 2% or maybe even 1.5% difference instead. So that's it for this video. Hope you guys found it informative, and I will see you guys in the next dungeon.